it made me want to play a detective but never be one. If that makes sense. Like I would never want to do that job
like
in real life.
So you do like a tabletop RPG where you're a detective?
No, I would want to be in something where I act like I'm a detective.
Oh,
like an actor. We in.
Sup.
We in. What up? Welcome everybody to the Chris and Kyle Show. Spoilers for the end of our True Detective series. True Detective Season 3. We did it. We made it through. We watched every season, do a different episode on it, each month apart. And I'm not going to lie to you. So, okay, I don't remember half the things I say on this show. Okay. Probably more than that. Okay. So, like, did we shit talk Season 2 enough?
Did we?
I don't know. Were we too nice?
I think that, like, our consensus was pretty meh. There's bad parts about it, and there's, like, good parts about it, but like it's clearly not as good.
Listen, because here's the thing. Season 2's existence made me like reluctant to start watching this.
Right.
That's a bad sign for your product. Like that's bad.
So do you think that like as this month has progressed, like your distaste for season 2 of True Detective has grown?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Especially after watching season 3 and being brought back to how good the show can be.
You can see,
spoiler alert, season 3 is fucking awesome.
Yeah, season 3 is fucking great.
You want a hot take? I
don't even know if 3 is better than season 1.
No, it's I like it the most. I don't know if it's better, but I like it the most.
Okay. I like season 1 the most, but I've watched season 1 more.
92 times.
That would be a lot. 92 times is a lot.
Yep.
Maybe one scene in True Detective I've seen 92 times. Titties! It's a tit joke.
I was going to try to give you...
Dude, I think this is what happens, dude. Whenever I make a joke that's off color, my chair starts sliding. I think that's what's happening.
You're being punished?
Yeah.
My gravity, gravity's punishing you? I was going to give you the benefit of the doubt there and say, like, what, have you watched that tracking shot 92 times? But no, of course not.
Even that's too long.
That is a pretty long scene. Yeah. It's like at least 5 minutes.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's hard for me to say that like automatically season 3.
But like so it comes down to this. You have a huge affinity, especially for the character of Russ Cole in season 1, played by Matthew McConaughey. Mm-hmm. Me, on the other hand, I think he's incredible to watch. It's an amazing performance, but I kind of hate the dude in a way. I don't like, by the end, you're like, all right, I get it. But like, also, you're being a pretentious asshole all the time.
But you also respect him though, right?
No, sure. Sure. Yeah, he's great at his job, but he's also just an asshole.
But he also has like a moral...
He has a moral compass, for sure. And he's much better than... He's a much better person than Woody Harrelson is. Woody Harrelson is just a dick.
Like, do you like the character of Russ Cole more than you like Marty?
Yeah, Marty is... I think you're supposed to. Marty does things wrong consistently throughout the season. Marty being Woody Harrelson's character.
But it might be... It's way easier.
And
they
try to present him as like an everyman or as you know, the normal guy, but he's actually the worst person, which is kind of like a twisty thing that they do a little bit.
But like, I mean, this might sound fucking super bleak, but he is way more of an everyman than Russ Cole is. Even with his...
But we also dig into Russ Cole's past and we find out...
Immorality?
Immorality, yeah. We find out about Russ Cole's past and how he's been affected by the loss of his daughter and all those things.
Being amoral means that you don't have morals, right? Being immoral means that you have bad morals? Is that how it works?
I think so. I'm not positive. That may or may not be right. But I'm going to go ahead and say sure.
Okay.
For the purposes of continuing this conversation. Anyway, what I was getting to is one of the big differences to me between season 1 and season 3, which are both great. Mm-hmm. Season 1 and 3 of this show are both great. The reason I think I like season 3 more is because at the end of the day, even though Roland West and Will Hayes, played by Stephen, oh my God. What is his name? Stephen Dorff. I don't know why I wanted to say Stephen Moffat. Mm-hmm. That's not right.
Nope.
Stephen Dorff and Mahershala Ali do things wrong. They have immorality to them. They are much better people, like by miles and miles and miles than the leads of season 1.
Right.
And than any character in season 2. partially because the characters just aren't that good, like well written. I mean.
Right.
So that was like one part of making me like it more. And I think something else that I thought was really interesting was how similar they were. They kind of leaned into the things that made season 1 work to bring themselves back to their roots and make season 3 work. But then I feel like season 1 is kind of about how people are bad and how life is bad. And it was very bleak. But in the end, they sort of present season 3 as being that way, and then they twist it. And I think by the end, it's actually the opposite. And it's not about the mystery as much as season 1 is. Like, we care about the mystery and we want to know who kidnapped these kids and murdered the boy and all these things. But when we find out at the end who did it, and the character of, oh my God, Stephen Dorff's character, I just said his name. Roland West even says, do you feel like you got any closure?
Yeah.
And Will Hayes is like, no. And we kind of feel that about the mystery. But I think that the scene when Mahershala goes, he has like this crazy vision of his wife potentially solving it. And then we go and his dementia kicks in right at the worst possible moment. And we don't get the answer. And then but then he goes home and he's happy. And he's with his family, and he's with Roland. Mm-hmm. And to me, that was just like, that was satisfying for me. I loved it.
I'm gonna come back to this. So I feel like we're getting,
sure. But I'm just trying to get to why I liked this season more.
Yeah. Okay. I somewhat agree with you. I feel like we're getting a little ahead of ourselves.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's bring in the people who probably haven't seen this season or have seen previous seasons and are watching the spoiler episode first. So do you want to go into the plot, like explain it a little bit, or
it's kind of hard,
right?
If you didn't,
it's kind of
write
a little
down
bit convoluted. But I literally just read a Vulture article, so I can try to go through it. Right. So Mahershala Ali's character,
Purple Haze.
Fuck, what was his first name?
Will Hayes.
Is it Will?
Yeah.
No,
Wayne
is the
sorry,
kid.
Wayne Hayes. Wayne Hayes.
Yeah, Wayne Hayes is a detective in the
it's very cool.
in the crimes unit.
Major crimes.
Major crimes. And him and Stephen Dorff's character, Roland West, they're partners, and they're shooting at cans when they get a call.
You're about to go through everything. Here we go.
Not everything. I'm gonna go through the parts that I remember. But when they get a call for a missing persons case, so they show up to this house on Shoepick Lane, and fucking.
This is all in Arkansas, by the way.
Yeah, all in Arkansas. Is that where Ozark comes from? That's like where that's
Ozark are mountain range, so they might be through multiple states.
Okay.
That's what the show Ozark is on Netflix is also like. It takes place.
And there's also Ozark
within the Ozark Mountains.
And there's also like there's a company named Ozark in the show.
Yeah.
Right. But basically, where this leads to them is they find out that the boy, that there's two missing persons.
Two kids, siblings.
Yeah, two kids, siblings. The boy they find pretty quick, and he's dead. And the girl is missing. And this missing girl, and them trying to find this missing girl, and who killed this boy and or stole the girl, is what leads these characters throughout 30 years, right?
Literally. No,
even longer
than that. 35, 45.
Because the story is told over three separate timelines.
Just like season 1.
Just like season 1.
Three separate timelines.
We have 1980, 1990.
And 2015.
And 2015. And in 2015, Mahershala Ali's character still hasn't solved the case.
35 years.
And you can tell that there's a lot of this
he
regret.
Old man.
There's this when he's talking with Stephen Dorff's character in 2015, they reference something that they both did.
They do that consistently.
He has Alzheimer's disease. Yeah. He can't remember everything, anything, and he has moments where he is standing in the middle of the street and doesn't know how he got there.
Yep.
Right. All the while, he's trying to piece together all of the things that have happened in his previous life with his family, with his career, and with this case.
And his partner.
Who I would say, like, the friendship between Roland West and
Wayne
Hayes. This was much more buddy than any of the previous True Detective seasons.
Yep. Although consistently throughout all 3 seasons, some of the best scenes just come from partners driving. Consistently.
Yeah, the car scenes.
Even in season 2.
Yeah, I would agree. But it's like even in season 2, I was just kind of like, oh, you bitch. Trying to rip off those car scenes, huh? So you talked about how season 3 was. It seemed more like happy, like it had more of a happy ending
by the end. Yeah.
By the end,
yeah.
I would say that like True Detective season 1, it has a happy ending.
Yeah, because they're doing, they both lived through the thing and they're both okay and they solved the mystery and
like
they're kind of more optimistic about things. I guess by the very end.
Thorn in the rose there, like the only thing that kind of makes it sort of bitter, is the fact that like there was this possibility of there being an underground child pornography ring that was being left uncovered.
Yeah.
Like they didn't ultimately bring that down. All they did was they got their guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was probably the only thing that was bitter about that. So I would say that. I also think that there is this strange feeling that this season provides that the other seasons do not. Okay. There's like this feeling of impending doom.
Yeah.
That I don't know if
you keep feeling like something's going to go horribly wrong.
Yeah.
And especially, I think, because we talked about this in season 1, how I think they maybe did a better job in season 1 of executing the narrowing down of the timelines. And then by the final episode, you're only in the present and you're just afraid of everything happening.
Right.
They kind of do that in this season, but it's not as precisely done. And they're still doing time jumps in the final episode. And I think the thing that makes you feel really scared about the present timeline is that it's 2 like 70-year-old dudes roaming around pretending to be cops. Yeah. And you're like, you think something horrible is going to happen to them. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
And one of them has Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
And that Alzheimer's makes it a horror movie.
Yeah.
Like I feel like fucking Pizzolatto could just write a straight up horror movie about a dude with Alzheimer's just in his house.
Yeah.
Because all of those scenes where he was like thinking of old memories and they was fucking coming back to bite him, because he was also Hayes. I keep wanting to call him fucking Chuck Hayes, but it's not. Wayne Hayes.
Purple Haze.
Purple Haze. He was also in Vietnam.
Yes. He was a LERP.
Oh yeah, LERP, a recon something.
Do you know what LERP stands for?
No.
Because I don't.
No.
I think he actually said it. Yeah, he did.
Steven Dorff said it.
Yeah, he did say it, but I don't remember. He was somebody who went behind enemy lines into the jungle and then killed people.
You've never seen Steven Dorff in anything, right?
No, I've seen Blade. I just didn't remember him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just don't remember
he's the main
much.
Villain in Blade.
But he was amazing in this.
Yeah, Steven. Okay,
performances across the board in this,
fucking great,
crazy good. Fucking like Mahershala's in God mode throughout this whole. Like the dude's a shoo-in for an Emmy to me.
Yeah.
He's amazing. Steven Dorff, incredible. He'll get a supporting actor nomination for sure.
Yeah.
Scoot McNairy is great as Tom, the dad. Yeah. He's great.
Yeah.
The wife is great. What's her name? Something Ajogo? Cameron Ajogo?
Yeah.
Yes, Carmen Ajogo, not Cameron. Carmen Ajogo. Ray Fisher as the son is good. Who's the other big one? Is there anybody else?
Who's the daughter? What is she in? I forgot to look her up before that.
She's in Luke Cage.
Oh, she's in Luke Cage?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a season that you've seen though.
Can you look her up?
What
her track history is?
Yeah, keep talking.
Looks super familiar. Okay, so what I was talking about with the impending doom thing, there is certain products that like the number one example of this for me is a game called Kentucky Route Zero. Have I ever talked about Kentucky Route Zero with you?
Mm-mm.
So it's a point and click game that a guy from the Navy, my buddy Eric, who we might have on this podcast, recommended this game to me. Kentucky Route Zero. It's point and click mystery kind of game about a dude taking a route through Kentucky called Route Zero or whatever. But the entire game with its music and its imagery makes you feel like you're about to like stumble into like a Lovecraftian like horror. Or like something like even like more mythical than that, you know? But there's never actually anything that tangibly leads you to believe that.
No.
It just makes you feel that way.
Yeah.
Like there's all
Well,
of
I think
these
it's kind of
things.
expectations, right?
Yeah.
They use your expectations
Yeah.
to make you think something horrible is going to happen all
Exactly.
the time.
And
I mean, horrible things do happen. Like people get murdered and kids get abducted and killed, and
they do, but
it doesn't happen to it doesn't happen to our characters that we're following.
True.
They go through hardships.
Mm-hmm.
They have fights, but nothing like truly like, you know, horrible happens. Just their life kind of sucks. Just being like, one of the weird things for the show, like I was watching and I was like, it made me want to play a detective but never be one. If that makes sense. Like I would never want to do that job
Like
in real life.
So you do like a tabletop RPG where you're a detective?
No, I would want to be in something where I act like I'm a detective.
Oh,
like an actor. I mean, sure, I would do that. I would play an
that's
RP.
what I thought you meant by play.
No, I would do that too. That would be cool too. But no, like I think it'd be a really cool character, like a true detective style detective. Like not like your NCISs of the world, you know, your just cable TV shows.
Right.
I'm talking about like this real shit. I was like, it's fascinating. It's
Yeah.
it'd be so cool to do,
Right.
but I would never do it in real life.
Right.
Too depressing.
Although, you know, one thing that we both don't have that we probably we would need in order to be on a True Detective series.
I don't know what.
Deep ass
Deep
voices.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna guess.
They're like
Yeah,
fucking
everybody,
Mahershala.
yeah.
There's times like when Mahershala and Steven Dorff are talking to each other.
And it's like they're trying to beat
And
each other to
I'm not
low
sure how
octave.
I'm not sure how you watched. So we watched some of the episodes together.
I had subtitles on.
So you had the subtitles on.
I
What
feel
would
like it's weird. I have to do that with like everything I watch now. It's weird. I don't know what's happening to me.
Well, I think that you need better sound when you watch things.
True.
So when I watched a majority of these episodes, I was using my Audio-Technica M50s, those white headphones that you use, fucking, which are awesome, incredibly good headphones.
Save them for a shout out, dog.
Yeah. Fucking wait for this week.
Hold up, baby. Hold up, baby.
Make a note. Anyways, so I was using those headphones. I watched the first 2 or 3 episodes with you,
Yeah.
just out here.
Yeah,
we
we
were
watched
using the
the first
TV
2.
sound,
Yeah.
which is it's ass. It's not good. It's not. And the sound immerses you into the story so much more. Like, so even when I'm watching it on my laptop, which a lot of people will scoff at, or like watching something on your phone, if you have a good pair of headphones, like I feel like that's even more important than the visual information. It can, because of how it can immerse you into the story and how it can, you can hear the fucking words, right? I didn't have any problem understanding them when I had those headphones on, but it also
I also have
brings
awful
about
hearing them.
how fucking like when I had those headphones on, like I felt like they were like whispering into my ear. And there's times when Steven Dorff and Mahershala Ali are in the same room talking to each other, and it's just
Yeah, they're just insanely deep voices. And those Arkansas
growling
accents
at each other, and I fucking loved it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the sound is fucking incredible in the show for sure. Not only the voices and the performances and everything, but
Score's dope.
music
Score's
is so
dope.
good. That like, and a lot of that impending doom is brought upon about there's certain. I'm not sure what it was. The episode when they interrogate the guy that works at Hoyt, the security manager at Hoyt.
Harris.
Yeah, Harris.
Harris James.
Yeah, Harris James. There's a part in the score that fucking reminded me of Arrival. And I was like, ooh, fucking got me going. Because it's like, it's very like, I don't know how to quantify it, like how to label it, but it's very like synthy, but also like very like horror, but it's not like Stranger Things, you know. It's like it's like it's almost like you're hearing an alien, you know.
Yeah, Score's really cool. So What did you think of the through line of Hayes and his wife's relationship?
Okay, I feel like we've talked about this before, about the trope of the wife who is with a detective, and I'm not sure if it was during, like, we talked about that during the True Detective series or what, but
I think
like,
it was
the
season
idea
1. Yeah.
of having a wife that is frustrated with their relationship because their significant other can't share every part of their life because they're detectives and they have to stay professional.
Yeah.
And in this case, even going beyond professional, but like he's trying to keep her out of fucking danger.
Yeah.
Because, okay, here come the spoilers, obviously, if you've made it this far,
Mary
23 minutes.
Poppins, y'all.
Poppins, y'all. Well, so...
Yo, he was good. He was in fucking
Purple Haze.
He was in one scene and he was good. Woo, Michael Rooker.
Yeah.
He was disgusting.
Purple Haze and Stephen Dorff killed someone. That's their ultimate.
Harris James.
Yeah, they killed Harris James.
And it's like this weird thing where, like, yeah, they murdered that dude. They did. But, like, legally speaking, it's kind of self-defense.
Yeah.
The killing part, like, they kidnapped him and tortured him. They're
Right.
completely at fault of those horrible things.
Right.
But then, like, if he hadn't then tried to escape and fight Purple Haze,
Yeah.
then Roland never would have shot him.
Right.
It's this weird thing where, like, if he would have just he would have lived. If he would have just confessed to what he knew, which we find out isn't as bad as people think it is.
Nope.
And it's kind of unsatisfying that it's not.
Right. Okay, so... What were we talking about? We were talking about...
I asked about the wife.
Oh, okay, the wife. I loved her.
I thought she was great.
I loved her.
I thought she's fantastic.
I thought her as a performance, just beautiful woman.
Yeah.
Beautiful woman. But also, like, it's fucking right up my alley because, like, it's... Like I have a huge problem now of like separating like my and maybe I shouldn't even be trying to do this, just enjoying it, but like every time that there is a love interest that's like light skinned, like I'm like I think of Kate, you know what I mean, and I think, and not only that, but this woman had a lot of the like attributes that Kate has, you know, like she's like very prideful of her higher education. Just very intelligent, and
she had like as a character, she had a ton of agency.
Yeah,
a ton of agency.
Yeah, and
to the point where it conflicted with our story and our leads.
Yeah, exactly.
But in a good way.
Yeah,
made it more interesting.
Yeah, but at the same time, there was like certain parts, especially after this point where Mahershala is being like, "Look."
You're talking about like the last couple episodes?
The last couple episodes when after he has killed a person and he's like, I can't tell you everything.
She catches him burning his suit in a trash can
and
in the backyard.
Her immediate thought is that he's cheating.
Well, I don't know if that's her immediate thought, but she basically, it's one of the things that runs through her head.
Okay. Yeah.
And she's like, if that's what it is, just tell me. Just tell me.
Right.
Get it over with.
Right. I forgot what I was going to say.
I'll say something. So it's kind of in the same area of what you're talking about. It's something that I thought about. It kind of happened in reverse. So you're talking about the scene basically where like they sit down at the kitchen table and he's like, I can't tell you everything to protect you. Right. And I thought it was an amazing piece of character work because like 2 episodes earlier when he's 70 years old or whatever and he finds out that his son is cheating on his wife with the reporter lady.
Right. And
he tells him not to tell his wife.
Right.
Because he basically says, telling her doesn't help her, it only helps you.
Right.
It helps you. He basically says, do you want to leave your wife? Do you want to end your marriage? And his son is like, no, I love her. I made a mistake. And he says, then you never tell anyone. You have to live with this guilt for the rest of your life. Telling her will only hurt her. And I was like, that one is debatable. It's like it's an ambiguously moral concept.
Yeah.
Whether that's the right or wrong thing to do. 2, it speaks to, I thought in the moment, I was like, this says a lot about Wayne Hayes as a character.
Yeah.
And then 2 episodes later, we relived that with him at a younger age, doing the exact same thing. I thought it was an amazing piece of character work.
And there's a lot of good writers, when they're writing things non-linearly, like they will have moments like that where you see like, it's almost like foreshadowing in reverse.
Yeah.
You know, like you're seeing
Half-shadowing?
So it's like if it were in a regular linear timeline, right? You have foreshadowing, right?
Yeah, we
You
would have seen him
something
do
at
this
point
with
A,
his wife.
something at point A that foreshadows to point B, right? But when we switch it, right? So something that is at point B, and then we see point A afterwards, and then we see that foreshadowing still. Yeah, it influences not only what happened at B, but like in the entirety of how the character is and maybe is changing, right? But there's a lot of like cool little examples like that, where like it's really easy. I don't know if you've ever tried to write anything like with a non-linear timeline. It's fucking hard as shit.
Yeah,
because like you just like there's all the things that you have to juggle, but in keeping with like the continuity that you would normally have to have with a linear timeline, you also have to understand how the audience is going through a non-linear timeline and how everything is influencing everything, right? And that's something that True Detective season 3 does really fucking well, because there is the little decisions that that manipulate the way that you view things, right? So a good example of this is when Roland West and Hayes are going through the house of the parents that lost their kids. The people? Yeah. So when Hayes goes into the room and sees the people, do you remember what happened immediately before seeing the people?
No.
The thing that...
Like a scene or while they were looking?
No, while he was in the room. The one thing that he found.
I know they looked through a bunch of pictures, like drawings.
So seeing a peephole, like seeing a hole in a girl's, in
a
boy's closet.
We all drew the same conclusion that he drew.
You draw that conclusion.
Oh wait, was it when they mentioned her uncle? The uncle stayed there.
So that came after.
Oh, okay.
Right, but the thing that you immediately see before that peephole, Playboy magazines.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So your mind is already sexually charged. Yep. You're like, why are all of these? You know, did this boy? You know, did he somehow smuggle Playboy magazines? Which is a natural thing to find in a boy's room that he's hiding under his bed. It's like that. I mean, it's almost tropey, right? But then it goes to another level where there's a hole in his closet that goes into his sister's room, right? So your brain is automatically like, was this kid fucking spying on his sister
first, and then they bring in the uncle.
That the uncle was staying with them in that boy's room, and the boy was sleeping on the couch.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh, this uncle is fucked up.
I feel like they do that throughout the season multiple times, where they set up situations and then give you information to draw a conclusion that they want you to draw that isn't right.
Yeah, they do it leads you to false conclusions.
Yes,
which brings you further into the characters of the detectives.
Yeah,
because they're continually getting false conclusions and go. So there's a couple examples of that. One is that because that peephole ends up becoming something that's not even sexually charged at all. They were passing notes.
Yeah, their siblings were passing notes.
The siblings were passing notes. That's all it was.
And it was like partially because their home was very tense because their parents didn't love each other because their dad was closeted gay guy and mom was always cheating on him.
Right.
And they would just send notes like, "Are you all right?" Like just really sweet things.
Right.
Yeah.
And the other false conclusion, which is probably the biggest false conclusion of season 3, right, is when the interviewer,
oh yeah,
when that producer brings
when they
up,
link you back to season 1,
links you back to season 1, and you're like, holy shit,
yeah, you're just like,
all of this is tied together.
You think it's this huge conspiracy?
This huge conspiracy between Arkansas and Louisiana and a fucking child pornography ring, and then you find out that it's not that at all.
Not at all.
That it's literally just a crazy rich woman.
That brings me to something that I thought was really interesting, and it ties to the parallels between season 1 and 2, and it's like, I feel like being 3 seasons into True Detective, we can kind of have a vibe of like there's consistent themes throughout all 3, and it's this idea of the man being corrupted, right? And it's in season 1 and 3 for sure. Season 2 is like all about it. It's an entire city that's corrupt. Season 1 and 3 are very much powerful men in the South who have money, have the ability to prevent these mysteries from being solved. And I think it's interesting that that's kind of what everything is, a through line through all 3 seasons. And it seems to be something that Nick Pizzolatto is interested in and wants to say something about.
Right.
From the vantage point of people lower down the totem pole who are singularly focused. They want to solve the mystery. They want to help the family who is going through all this pain. And they're being slowed down by and even stopped, especially in season 3, they're stopped twice by the man. People who have their own selfish agendas because of political influence and things like that. And I think that's really interesting.
But then, so you find out that, like, you know, this conspiracy that she's like, the actual crime that happened here was, I mean, the only, because it technically is a conspiracy. There's people conspiring to cover something up, right? But instead of it being a linked thing between going all the way to Louisiana and all, like you imagine all of these rich, which kind of happened in season 2.
Yeah.
You know, there was a bunch of rich people, very powerful people.
Yeah, with human trafficking.
Yeah, with human trafficking. But it was really just 3 people.
Yeah.
That conspired
and
in order to cover
a very
this up.
sick woman.
Yeah.
Yeah. It like we talked about it earlier, how it's kind of unsatisfying.
Yeah.
Because things have, and I think it speaks to the doom thing you were talking about. Like we keep expecting such doom.
Yeah.
And it builds up these expectations of a few things. So like we expect it to be some awful human, like in season 1, right? The dude's horrible and scary. We expect it to be, I think we're talking about foreshadowing. I think like throughout, I subconsciously was expecting a finale where Purple Haze had to track down our murderer, like using his military skills. That was something I expected to happen. I was like, there's going to be because we early on, we learned what a fucking badass he is. Like the dude's a straight up gangster. And like I was ready for,
which was very reminiscent of season 1 as well, because Russ Cole, like Marty was talking about how Russ Cole he used to hunt with his dad or whatever and taught him to bow hunt.
They talk about hunting a lot early on in the show. Yeah. So I was expecting this sort of confrontation where we got to see our lead character's skills come to the forward and execute finding the person. And then also, oh man, I lost my train of thought. I was on a roll there. Why did you trigger me into saying these things? How did you do that?
I don't remember.
I don't either. Oh man, shoot.
There's so much to talk about this show that it's
dense,
hard to address all of it.
Yeah.
It's like incredibly good show. This season specifically is very good. Very, very good.
Yeah, so like if you have 2 great seasons and 1 horrible season, what does that make you as a show?
Horrible though.
Yeah, it's
better than Iron Fist.
Season 1, it's not better than season 2.
Of Iron Fist?
Yeah, definitely not better than season 2.
I literally could not watch season 1 of Iron Fist.
No, it's definitely better than season 2. I mean, season 2 is definitely of Iron Fist is definitely better than season 2 of True Detective.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a couple things I wrote down here. Oh, okay. So like the ultimate theme of time, just like radiating through this season, was something that was like very independent of like there was specific references to an idea that involved time in season 1, the time is a flat circle thing, which is a Nietzsche idea of like
Nietzsche being a person, not a mispronunciation of the word niche.
Yeah. But the theme of like this entire season is time.
I mean,
memory,
you could make the
like
argument that time is the enemy at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Time is just the true enemy.
But it was also something that fixed.
Yeah. Well, that's what he kind of, in his vision, that's what his wife says to him. Yeah.
So
do you like the idea that like it's basically up to us whether or not that was her or not?
Do you believe that it's up to us?
I certainly think it's ambiguous whether or not that's her. The fact that he has that episode right when he's about to get to the conclusion and figure everything out, whether or not that's true, and we don't learn it, I think by its nature makes it up to us to decide what we think.
Okay, let's talk about the ending. Let's talk about exactly what happened, right? So West and Hayes
As old men.
As old men track down
fucking
the,
great.
basically the last person that they can track down, which is this black man with a dead eye.
And it's this weird, like, we were talking about how scary it is because they're old and you're afraid something horrible is going to happen to them.
Exactly.
But also it's funny because they're old men.
Right.
Trying to be detectives still. They're going around with badges, telling
Silly.
people they're cops,
Yeah.
and one of them has like dementia or Alzheimer's. It's ridiculous.
Right. But they track down this man, and this man finally tells them.
Yeah, Watts. Julius Watts.
Goes through the
Mr.
entire
June.
thing, and he lets the cat out of the bag and tells the exact situation of what happened.
Yep. And then he says, "Punish me."
So, what actually happened was that this old woman, Isabella Hoyt, right?
Michael Rooker's daughter.
Michael Rooker's daughter, she got into a car accident with her husband and her daughter, right? Got into a car accident,
They died.
which killed both her husband and her daughter.
She got very sick.
She went nuts.
Yeah.
She went nuts, and basically at a event for the company that her family runs, saw this family, which was the Purcells,
Yes.
with their son and their daughter, and the daughter reminded
like her
Isabella of her daughter Mary.
Yes.
So basically, this
She-
crazy ass woman abducts.
Yeah.
Well, these
in
two
like
kids.
the slowest way possible. She like asks if she can pay the
Slowly-
mom so that she can play with her,
and slowly becomes friends with the kids,
and then decides I'm going to adopt her,
yeah,
and then basically abducts her.
yeah, abducts her, and throughout the course of the abduction,
Because they always
accidentally-
insisted that the brother be there to watch over the sister while they play.
accidentally kills
Murders
the son,
the son Will.
right?
Yeah.
He hits his head on a rock while he's trying to fight them.
Which goes to more of the misdirection stuff we're talking about, because then they move him to the cave and the sister sets his hands up
And you
praying.
think-
Because she thinks he's unconscious. She
And
thinks
it's
he's
also-
asleep.
And it's also so reminiscent of season 1, and it's playing with your your
plays with
ideas,
expectations big time.
Which, like, if you're so these seasons are anthology seasons, right? They are seasons unto themselves, like one storyline throughout an entire season, but they definitely do influence each other. And I think season 1 and season 3 especially. Season 2 I'm not interested in enough in order to see how they influence each other. But in season 1 of True Detective, episode 1 of True Detective, Marty Hart talks to Russ Cole about how you can walk yourself into false conclusions. And he says, like, once you start looking at evidence and building a narrative, you can lead yourself to false conclusions. And that's exactly what happened in season 3 with this thing. When you see Will, the son, who's in a cave, dead, and his hands are folded like this, and we see dolls.
We immediately go back to season 1 and the creepiness of it. Yeah.
Exactly. But like the dolls, like, are literally like remind us of the cages that were built, like the little stick cages. In season 1, and you think that they pretty much serve the exact same purpose, and they don't at all. These dolls were literally just like gifts that the mom was trying to give to the kids in order to be friends with them. And in order to fucking lure the daughter home with her. Right? So she abducts this woman, accidentally kills the son.
Girl. She abducts the girl.
The woman abducts the girl. Excuse me. The woman abducts the girl. Julie. Names her Mary.
Gives her a new name.
Gives her a pink room.
They like lock her in a dungeon, essentially.
Yeah.
But that's where she is also locked. That's the weird part. This Isabella, right?
Yeah, Isabella.
She was already locked down there because she's nuts.
Right.
And Mr. Jonas Watts, was in charge of basically keeping her there and being her friend.
Right.
Or he took that upon himself to try to make her life, livable.
Right.
But yeah, so basically they lived down there for like a decade, right? And then Julie escapes.
But with the aid
of Watts.
But
he says, he draws her a map, says, meet me at this place and I'll help you get away. And she doesn't go there.
Yeah.
And then for 15, 20 years or whatever, she's gone.
Yeah.
And she resurfaces in 1990 with the fingerprints at the Walgreens. And then they can't find her again.
Right.
because Michael Rooker shows up basically and shuts him down with the threats of against his family.
But yeah, so fast track to 2015. We have Watts talking to our
confesses
detectives.
everything.
He's confessing everything, and then he says that basically he tracked her down in '95
to a convent.
And apparently she got to the convent, was helping people out, but had contracted AIDS.
HIV.
Contracted HIV and died at the convent. And
they go follow up with the nuns, and they say the same story, and they have a grave out back for her with a tombstone.
Then her new name,
Mary June.
Mary July.
That's right.
Yeah.
Why'd you pick July? The dude's name was Mr. June. That's just whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, then that's when Purple Haze has this sort of episode where he sees a vision of his wife, essentially, who tells him this new conclusion that maybe they faked her death so that she could move on to have a normal life with the boy from when she was a kid who worked as a landscaper at the convent, and that maybe he found her there, and they got married and had their own kid.
But it could be literally his own subconscious trying to
make it a happy ending,
bring himself closure.
Yeah,
I mean, this is something that has been his sole focus throughout his life. His entire marriage was intertwined.
It was
with
built
the
on
death of this boy, and the
kidnapping of the girl.
prolonged search for this missing girl.
Yeah.
And once he actually got his conclusion, he didn't have closure.
Yeah.
And his fucked up brain was trying to fucking bring about some closure to it. So I love it.
No, I think it's
it's fucking super cool.
Yeah. But I do think you can draw your own conclusion.
I do.
I think I think maybe me and you would draw opposite conclusions based on the type of people we are.
Really?
Maybe.
Do you think so?
Maybe.
I literally walked into this conversation being like, yeah, that's obviously Julie Purcell.
Oh, okay, cool. So I like to think it is.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think it's obvious.
I don't
think it's obvious.
I agree. Throughout this conversation,
talked yourself out of it a little bit.
Well, not talking myself out of it, but walking through it, it influences my brain to.
Should I turn this on?
Yeah, it's a little bit dark.
It's outcast outside.
Yeah.
My baby don't mess around because she loved me so, and this I know for sure.
What were we talking about?
The conclusion.
Yeah, the conclusion. So I feel like a majority of those conclusions I'm pretty positive on.
That's true. I just like to mess with you.
Like the end of Ex Machina,
mm-hmm.
I have a positive conclusion about Ex Machina.
Okay.
Is it
that you met Ava and fell in love with her? Is that your conclusion?
Yeah, that's the conclusion.
Interesting. Nice. And Domhnall Gleeson died a horrible death, so he could never come bother you in your happy life.
Yeah, if Donald Gleeson died in Ex Machina, that's not. We're not spoiling Ex Machina right now.
I'm just saying, like, if
he did,
that would make you happy.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, what did you think about the final scene of him just walking into the? They flashed all the way back to his time in Vietnam.
Yeah, which we had never seen before.
We had never seen it. They've only talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that?
So it was obviously a symbol, you know.
Yes. I thought the same, but there's an interesting thing. Nick Pizzolatto had a quote where he said, "Take every scene at face value. Nothing is symbolic." I guess you would be, which is kind of weird, right?
I think that he does that to influence your watching. But
yeah,
I fucking
really
highly doubt
into...
that he is too smart to not include symbols. I don't think that he can completely.
Well,
operate
I think
without
things
symbols.
can parallel as being face value and symbolic, though.
Absolutely, and I think that the best writers have that, have like symbols that are they're not just symbols for symbols' sake.
Yeah,
you know, but they work themselves practically into what happened. Mm-hmm. Like, and that shot isn't ridiculous enough to not be taken at face value.
It's
you know what
literally
I mean?
just him walking into the jungle.
Yeah.
In his military.
And he's looking around before he walks into some bushes.
Dude, there's so many moments where
they
transition so beautifully from timeline to timeline by having Wayne like look back at himself. Mm-hmm. I love it.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
But so he can say that like that you have to take everything at face value thing, but they made a decision to have that, mm-hmm. right? To literally, like, they didn't have to shoot that scene.
No,
they could have just
all.
ended.
Not at all.
Right? But
if anything, that scene was probably overly
They
complicated
made
to
a
shoot
decision.
for what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
They had to find that jungle and shit. They had to put him in that outfit.
Yeah, like there's location scouting. There's people
Yeah.
that have to fucking
Yeah.
put together the uniform.
Yeah,
and
it's
everything.
fucking nonsense. All for
For
3 seconds.
Yeah, for a fucking 10-second shot,
Yeah.
right? Of Mahershala literally in Vietnam,
Yep.
walking around and then walking into a bush.
Yep.
And how are you supposed to interpret that? What is the decision?
I think it's so. There's a
Why-
lot of ways to interpret it. And the lamest one, because obviously right afterward I was like, "What do people think about this final shot?" It's an interesting thing to make your final shot, especially right after what we were talking about, sort of the happiness of the end. Like, it was just him sitting on the porch with his family, and it was like this actually like, it was this sweet ending. You know, it made you feel happy. You're like, "Oh, look, like he can live out the rest of his days, and he's got his life, his family around him, and he's got his friendship back with Roland. It's happy."
Right.
But then they do this, and it just gives you a whole new thing to think about. The lamest one is, none of this even happened. We just flashed back, and he's about to go into the jungle and die. That's the
Whack.
Why would you think that? What's the point of that? That's so stupid.
Yeah.
What are you doing? He would never even happen. That's so
really
stupid.
Really
But yeah, what did you think when you saw that?
When I saw that scene, I like my instant reaction was like, "What the? Why? You know, why
Yeah.
is this here?
I had,
why
an,
is this
I
here?"
had, okay. Let me tell you that I thought it actually was a really the more I think about it, it's like this kind of beautiful parallel to the porch scene. He's sitting with his family and he's happy, right? And he's nearing the end of his life. But I like the idea that him, whether it's a memory or just showing the audience, whether it has anything to do with the way he feels in the moment, it's him looking back on his life. He's literally looking back in the shot, and then he moves into the jungle. And I like the idea that it's sort of that he feels armed to now move on to the rest of his life as an old man. I kind of like that.
Okay.
And I think the cool thing about the scene is it can literally mean whatever you want.
Yeah.
It's that thing where like writers say where once you put your work out into the world, it's not yours anymore, which I kind of disagree with to some points. You know what I mean?
I really like that. I like your take
But I
on
think
that.
things like this are very much purposefully like whatever you think. Like obviously I think Nick Lotzapizza Pizzolato thinks it means one thing, probably.
Yeah.
Or he leans toward one thing. But I like the idea that we can draw a conclusion. And I like that it's sort of an optimistic thing.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I would agree
Yeah?
with you there. Yeah, I wouldn't even say I came like to that definitive of a conclusion.
Mhm.
I like that though.
Yeah. Yo, we've been talking about this for a long time.
Well, I mean, this is a hefty episode. You have to explain a lot.
Yeah,
You have
it's
to,
beefy.
Yeah.
The show is beefy, man. It's so fucking good.
Yeah.
Oh my god. And the cool thing, you can be like, "Oh, I don't know if I should watch True Detective. You know, I heard how good season 1 is." Just skip season 2. You don't even have to watch it.
Sure.
It literally means nothing.
Mhm.
Just skip it. Just watch season 1 and 3, and it will feel like a connected show a bit.
Yeah.
Have they said if they're going to do a season 4 or not?
I have no
Do you
idea.
know? I don't either.
I have no idea.
I'd be into it.
Yeah. I would say, like, on the whole, like, I enjoy season 1 more. I'm not sure which one's better. Like,
Yeah.
if you put a gun to my head and say which
I think
season is better, like, regardless of your affinity for them, I would say season 3 is better.
I think it might be. I don't know. There's like some of the peaks of season 1, like we were talking about the tracking shot. Like there's some peaks of season 1 that are just such perfect filmmaking.
Yeah. I also think that there's more of a cohesive whole that's brought about with Fukunaga directing the entirety
Yeah.
of season 1.
Yeah, like I heard a take that people think that the actual middle episodes of season 3, which are actually directed by Nick Pizzolato, are actually like the weakest directed,
Right.
which I think is interesting. Yeah, I do think you're right. Maybe having that one director who's a genius,
Right.
throughout the whole show really helped.
And he's someone whose own traits as a director brought about like the best parts of season 1 and the story with season 1.
I think
Like,
we
he's
should.
someone,
Oh, sorry.
if you've seen like Sin Nombre, I haven't seen the one with Idris Elba, but
Beast of No Nation.
yeah.
Yeah.
But he's someone who can bring about an environment in like the most characteristic way possible, where you feel as if you're in the environment. And Louisiana is its own character. in season 1.
Mm-hmm. Although I do think this had that a little bit.
Yeah, it had a little bit of like the Arkansas, but I don't think it's as palpable.
Yeah, we haven't even touched on like the stuff with Woodard or Tom getting murdered, like the false conclusions that they were brought to in the case that the Attorney General was like, yeah, that's what happened. Yeah. We haven't even touched on that stuff, and it's fascinating in its own right. But it's its own study on racial relations and America and like all these things. And you know what? Something I heard. Originally, before they had cast Mahershala Ali as the lead, the racial stuff wasn't even going to be a part of the show. It was something that Mahershala brought with him,
right?
Which I think is super interesting because it plays a big role in the show, especially because of the time when it takes place in 1980 specifically.
Yeah.
Plus the amazing scene that you were out here when he says, "Do you know what word I want to say?" And he's like, "Why don't you say it?" And he's like, "I just want you to know I'm thinking it."
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah. Fucking
when they get in an argument after they kill.
They literally kill someone, and Steven Dorff is like
mad,
basically mad that Mahershala Ali kind of like
he talked him into the whole situation.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he wants to call him the N-word, but he won't because he's like, it's the wrong thing to do. I'm too good of a person to stoop to those lows. But I want you to know I'm thinking it. No, I think we should say though we were talking about different directors. Nick Pizzolatto directed some in the middle. Jeremy Saulnier directed the first two, and Daniel Stackheim directed the rest.
Stackheim.
That's what I just said.
You said Stackheim.
Still?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm broken. Stackheim. I was literally reading it. How would I say it wrong?
I don't know, man.
Do you have any negatives? We haven't said anything.
No, we haven't said anything bad.
I'm trying to think if there's anything where I was like, I didn't like that.
There's certain times where you're like, how the fuck, like, why are they thinking this way, right? I would say one specific example of that is when I say why are they thinking this way, I'm talking about like the detectives coming up with invalid like conclusions. But the scene where they have the episode where Julie calls the hotline.
Oh, you're wondering why they thought that Tom was.
So they bring about why it's valid later on.
Oh, you didn't think that kind of immediately? You didn't realize why they were doing that?
So they have a hotline for anybody that knows the location of Julie Purcell, right?
And Julie herself calls the hotline.
Julie calls the hotline and she's like, fucking, why
is that guy pretending to be my father?
This guy's not my father, yada, yada.
Where's Will? All these things.
Right. My first reaction was like, how do they know that that's not just some fucking woman that's just calling? Like I was like, that could just be a crazy woman. Like as a police officer, you have to know that that's Julie in order for it to influence.
I don't think that's necessary. I think they have to do their due diligence.
Exactly.
And that's why they talk to Tom.
But you can't automatically, dog. They didn't just talk to Tom. They fucking they attacked him.
Because they're so connected personally. They felt personally affronted by the concept that maybe he did it the whole time.
Right.
Especially Roland, who was his friend.
Yeah.
And they also felt like we have to be the ones to do this because if we don't, these guys who are convinced it's him,
I agree with you, but
are going to kill him.
But I'm not talking about the decision to attack him and
interrogate him.
They
didn't attack him; they interrogated him.
Well, I mean, it was verbal.
Yeah, verbal abuse.
So the decision to interrogate him is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the entirety of not only the two detectives, right, West and Hayes, right, but the entire department was like, this is Julie.
Oh, yeah, that makes complete sense to me, though.
They automatically assumed that it was Julie.
Because I think it kind of speaks to what I was talking about earlier with like the man thing. They were so obsessed with putting a bow on it that they would have taken anything, I think. And that's just all it speaks to.
Agreed. But you find out later that they tracked the call back to a payphone, took and they got a partial fingerprint off that payphone, and it matched Julie Purcell's fingerprint. So,
yeah, I didn't think that they were jumping to any illogical conclusions by operating under the assumption that it was her, especially because they immediately sent people to go check the scene, you know, and they were just doing basically due diligence of what they had to do, operating under if it were true. So it didn't bother me.
No, like like I said, I'm glad that they had that part. They talked about how they got the partial fingerprints because otherwise I'm like that's bad cop work.
Yeah. Yeah, that stuff with Tom was messed up. That dude got straight up murdered because he definitely killed his brother-in-law. By the way, for sure. We never found out what happened to Daniel except for that his remains were found in a quarry. Tom definitely murdered him. Tom went, murdered his brother-in-law, and then went and got murdered because he went to try to go to the Hoyts and got caught by Harris. Right after he found Julie's room. But Julie wouldn't have been there at that point. So he found her room. Because he says, I got super chills at that scene. The very end of that episode.
Yeah.
When he opened the room and you see the pink walls and he goes, Julie? I was like, oh my God. Crazy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fucking great season. Hot.
So like I definitely got Stranger Things vibes from like the first
episode.
episode.
Early on. Dude, they played D&D. For sure they were playing D&D.
Yeah.
All those dice?
Yeah.
They were for sure playing
They're
D&D
playing
in the woods.
D&D. You have kids riding around on bikes. The kid
missing
that
kid
goes missing
is
is
named Will. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Big. It's weird. It's weird to get Stranger Things vibes.
And it's in
True
1980.
Detective. Yeah. 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 I would say we're at an hour on a spoiler episode. So.
Yeah. This is
I would
for
say
sure our longest spoiler episode.
Great season. I would say if you are wondering if you should watch True Detective at all, I would say just watch season 1 and 3. Don't even watch season 2. Don't even worry about it. You don't have to.
Yeah, it's kind of sad. I feel like
it's not good. And if anything, like season 3 makes it seem even worse. It's crazy. It also came from the same dude. It's nuts. Yeah. You got anything else?
No. If you love True Detective, watch season 3.
Yeah. If you don't love True Detective, watch season 1 and 3 and then love it.
If you've never seen True Detective at all,
watch it.
I don't know what you're doing.
So yeah, this has been Chris and Kyle Show. Spoilers, True Detective season 3. Next week is the last week of the month, right?
Yours?
Yeah. You know what that means? Our poll wraps up on Monday. So get on there and let your voice be heard if you haven't yet. We're doing a Scorsese poll, Scorsese-De Niro team-up poll between Raging Bull and Taxi Driver. So go vote on that and figure out which one I'm going to see for the first time. And we are going to do a spoiler episode on that next week. And hop on to, we'll put it in the description again on this video, the bracket challenge. I think Thursday is the last day to put your brackets in to be eligible, which would be the day we release this, essentially. But hop onto the link to ESPN.com's bracket challenge and join the TCAKS group. The password is all lowercase, TCAKSpod. The group is just all caps, TCAKS, TCAKS. Fill out a bracket. The winner of our group's bracket challenge will get to pick our spoiler episode next month instead of doing a poll. Anything you want within non-gross reason, you know what I mean? Like, don't. What did you say last time? Don't do a porn movie.
I said don't do a porno
unless it's.
Should we? It has to be a movie.
Yeah, we can't like watch a whole TV show.
Yeah, we can't do a whole TV show.
We learned that with this. Like even the 8-episode True Detective was hard for us to get in time. But yeah, so you get to pick a movie for us, and we look forward to that's going to be interesting to see who wins and what they pick for us. Yeah, your brother figured it out because the password seemed to be working.
Yeah,
okay.
I guess.
Okay, cool.
He just had some problems.
We had a scare that maybe the password wasn't working, but other people had already joined it, so I assumed it was probably like a mistype or something. Okay. Yeah. So check the show out online if you want to watch more of our videos or anything. Find it on YouTube at The Chris and Kyle Show. Find it on any podcasting platform. Check out our episodes. Find the show on social medias at Instagram, Facebook, The Chris and Kyle Show, TCAKSpod on Twitter. Polls are on Facebook and Twitter. Find Chris, chrismichaelstott.com. Read his scripts, Chris Michaelstott on Instagram. Find me, DavinWell25 on Twitter and Instagram. We will be back on Monday with our regular episode, and we'll see you next week for our poll winner. It's been real. We out.
We out. Stay weird.